It's 2021, and here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we know what that means. It's time now to start campaigning and electing the most important offices in our state legislature. Here on State of the Water for the month of April, May, and June, we'll have candidates who are vying for the office of governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and the House delegates. Here on State of the Water, we have wonderful guests who are going to come on today to talk with you. I'm Dr. Claville. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. You're listening to Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Claville. Hopefully you're enjoying this wonderful spring weather that we have here in the Commonwealth. What a wonderful change from the weather we've been experiencing. But here on Stay the Water, hopefully you're remaining safe. Hopefully you're adhering still to the social distancing and the mask policies in order to keep yourself healthy. And you're making the best decision for your health with your physician and your family, because we will get through this together. For the month of April, May, and June, we're continuing our conversation with candidates and also representatives in the General Assembly who are running for statewide office here across the Commonwealth, and more specifically here in Hampton Roads. Again, in 2021, this is the year that we elect our statewide offices, and this is an opportunity for you to engage the policymakers, movers, and shakers that are going to be representing your community in Richmond. And today, we won't fail you because we also have a state delegate and a candidate for lieutenant governor who is going to speak to us today. And we have a wonderful young man by the name of Xavier Warren, who's vying for the office of lieutenant governor, who wants to talk with you here on WNSB. Mr. Warren, welcome to Stay the Water.
Dr. Claville, glad to be here. Glad to be here on the State of the Water. And hello, Hampton Roads area. I'm glad to connect with you and want to earn your vote to be lieutenant governor.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, Mr. Warren, one thing about, politics here in the Commonwealth is like a mosquito. It bites every young man and young lady and want to go out and make change and really make a difference in their community. But I don't want to give your narrative. I want to ask, what caused you to say, hey, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and I want to run for lieutenant governor here in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
Well, first of all, we got to talk about the reality right now. The reality is that hundreds of small businesses have closed. Thousands of people are unemployed. Also, we have cities and counties, or budgets are upside down. The racial wealth gap has imploded and widened. People are in financial need, especially in the 757 area. A lot of people lost their jobs and are now unemployed and on unemployment benefits in our areas, and also majority of those folks are people of color. Not only are we in an economic crisis, we're in a COVID crisis, we are in a climate crisis, but most importantly, we are in a racial crisis. And the reason why I got into this race is it actually goes back to my commencement speaker. I'm a proud HBCU alum, Hampton University, so I'm just across the water.
All right.
And President Barack Obama was my commencement speaker. He challenged my classmates and me to lead the change we want to see in Virginia and become the next generational leader. I was blessed to achieve my childhood dream and become a successful entrepreneur. And knowing where we are now, the biggest opportunity, Dr. Claville and all of the listeners, the biggest opportunity for change is always following a crisis. So my focus is really to bring my unique perspective as someone who, graduated from a historically black college and university, someone that knows what it's like to, live paycheck to paycheck as a former restaurant server and also in retail on Coliseum Drive. I worked in retail on Coliseum Drive to pay for books. I know what that's like, but also I know what it's like to be a small business owner, write my name on the front of a check as well, and to manage payroll and also to lead a team. Bring that unique perspective to really bring new leadership, fresh ideas, and a fresh start to Virginia. And that's the reason why I'm in this race, and I want you all support.
Mr. Warren, you mentioned at graduation at Hampton University and President Barack Obama, former president, speaking. and inspiring you to do what you're doing now. And I hear a lot of that where individuals have either heard former President Barack Obama, his wife, or others speaking, and it's that one statement that pushes them to think about their lives and really change the trajectory of their life. What was that one statement or that encounter that you remember from that speech?
Again, I always felt like we as a people and people of color were always looking for the next generational leader and become involved, get involved. And, sitting aside, people actually was hurting financially, Dr. Claville,
Absolutely.
Before COVID arrived.
Absolutely.
COVID made it worse, especially for people of color, low-income people, not even, working-class people. You think about first-generation college students that are coming out of college and try to figure out how they're going to repay this mountain student loan debt. Small business owners, people that literally want an opportunity for their sons or daughters and mothers as well. Women dropped out of the workforce at an 8-time higher rate. And so as someone as myself, I've been blessed to make it in business, but I realized that on my journey from coming from an HBCU and as a businessman, the difference between the have and the have-nots is those who know and those who don't know. And I'm a firm believer everyone should have a seat at the table. So when I saw what was happening, I couldn't stand on the sideline. And I thought about, what President Obama said as in, leading the change, being that leader, to step up and give a voice to the voiceless and also being an inspiration to others and to be able to help those where you come from. And I am a product of us. I am you and you are me. And my success is your success. And I plan to do that as Lieutenant Governor.
That's right. We are each other's keepers, our brothers and sister. And one thing about public service is that first you have to be selfless, I believe, and you also have to be a leader. And one way to show leadership, of course, is in community and also in our personal lives. Tell us a little bit about the areas in your career where you have had to show that leadership and what you've been able to accomplish outside of this political arena.
Yeah, well, I was born and raised in Danville, Virginia, Dr. Claville, Pennsylvania County.
Yes.
I was a country boy with big dreams. And even, like I said, going to Hampton University, Hampton Roads, and further my education at Georgetown, I currently reside in Arlington County, Northern Virginia. I never forget, my mother used to say to me, and my father, they always remind me, even to this day, they say, Xavier, no matter where God takes you on your journey, never forget where you come from.
That's right.
Never forget your people. Never forget those who were there. Never forget where you come from. So when, back at home, a lot of gang violence and crime increased. What I did is I helped support and sponsored and brought in through my being a sports agent. That was my childhood dream. Being a sport agent, I brought in Under Armour, Reebok, and Adidas to be able to bring in and host a inner city youth football camp and went down and talked to these kids about, not picking up a gun, not selling drugs, and how gang violence is not the way out.
Wow.
or selling drugs is, there are ways legally that you be able to provide for your family as well. But I understood where they come from, especially I came from an area with lack of financial opportunities. But you also have to have hope. Also in myself, after I achieved my childhood dream when I finished graduating Georgetown, I knew how blessed it was, Dr. Vale, to say, hey, as a black man that dreamt years ago that I wanted to be a sports agent, how unique it was and how God positioned me that I actually achieved that. So going back to the challenge of my mom told me, like, never forget where you come from, I knew that people, they couldn't get a quality education, health care, or housing because they didn't have the financial means. So I did something about it. As an entrepreneur, I created a very successful federal grants business that has secured millions of dollars for hospitals, schools, and local governments to be able to help folks in need. And I'm talking about education, healthcare, and economic development money to be able to help other people to have the opportunity to say, hey, I achieved my dream, but also better themselves, not only for them, but also for their families as well. So I'm a firm believer of giving of my time, talent, and treasure. And that's the type of person I would be as Lieutenant Governor. And that's the reason why I want you all to support and vote.
Wow. It takes a lot in through our discussions, we've talked about individuals, even when I talk with you, I ask you, why would you want to leave what you're doing, being successful in business, being young and doing all the things that you're doing, to be a public servant. And it seems that your heart, is truly in the community and giving back and making those opportunities. Like you said, there's a lot of young men out there who are out there looking for a way. And unfortunately, because of the lack of opportunities, not because of the lack of drive, but the lack of opportunities, they end up going in the wrong direction. As Lieutenant Governor, I mean, you'll represent not just the Commonwealth, but you'll also represent people that you look like, African American, black male, grew up, like you said, in Danville, country boy, which a lot of great people came out of Danville, by the way. and I know you know that, but a young country boy that had big city dreams in making it. What would be your platform in order to effectuate that type of opportunity to people in the Commonwealth?
Yeah, economic empowerment.
Wow.
That's the reason why I'm in this race. Economic empowerment. You got to think about this, Dr. Claville. I mean, we're talking about statewide races right now. And you go down to neighborhoods, you sit in churches, community centers, or you just talk to your neighbor. And the biggest concerns are, one, do not even have financial needs to even pay for rent or my mortgage, don't have access to quality health care, broadband internet, and also insurance and housing. These are the same topics we've been talking about 4 years ago. Same topics we've been talking 8 years ago, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed.
And still talking.
Nothing,
just
still
talking. Yeah.
Still talking. So we need systematic change. Now, beyond presiding over the Senate and performing any tiebreaking vote, the Lieutenant Governor, Dr. Claville, actually serves on business committees that focus on generating economic development, advancing entrepreneurship, and creating jobs.
Wow.
And I'm about action. I came from a household, you say what you mean what you say, but you lead by action. And I've done that my entire life, and that's what I would do as in Lieutenant Governor, as in being an inspiration and sharing and connecting and mentorship with individuals look like me and individuals that don't look like me.
That's right.
As a person who is a follower of Jesus, I live by the golden rule, as in treating those the way you want to be treated. Also, as an HBCU alum, a lot of people from HBCUs to even rural folks, they always wonder, will you forget about us? A lot of people have been forgotten. Will you forget about us when you go to the state capitol, when you go to Richmond?
Right.
And I tell folks, it doesn't matter if you're a rural voter, if you're an urban voter, went to HBCUs, I've been in the Hampton Roads, if you're a person that used in hospitality, a restaurant server, or a retail server, or if you're a small business owner, I am you. You all are part of my DNA, part of my blood. So I would never forget about you because I used to be in your shoes. And because I used to be in your shoes, maybe in part of my success I am right now as an entrepreneur, and I want to do everything in my power to make sure that the next 4 years are the best 4 years, and we actually make progress in economic empowerment for all families.
It's one thing that I talk about and preach all the time, and that's economic empowerment, upward mobility, because I believe that's the second part and really an equal part of the civil rights movement that really didn't get addressed. I know that Dr. King was pushing for it right before his assassination. And I think that's where we ended up dropping the ball as a whole, because it's one thing to have rights. It's another thing to have the education. But if you don't have economic opportunity, then you're really still at square one. And one thing about moving forward, we also, Mr. Warren, we talk about this age of reckoning of racial inequality and also inequity. Right now, we're getting ready for the verdict of for justice for George Floyd against former officer Derek Chauvin in Minneapolis, and there are many, many other instances. Still, we see it happening with young black men and women, being basically subjected to death and harassment by police and others, and we see it. Racial inequity in our schools and also in corporate America and everyday jobs that people are going to. How would you address, or what do you think is your mission to help to bring light or to address racial inequity and inequality here in the Commonwealth?
Well, you have to bring fairness. You got to lead by example. I have to say this. So I'm on a statewide tour, as you know, Dr. Claville.
Absolutely.
I've been from Danville, Lynchburg, Farmville, Southwest, up 29, 58. I was in Hampton Roads. I came and went to Norfolk State and met with you. I traveled to every single HBCU in the state of Virginia. And I never forget, in Virginia University of Lynchburg, President Franklin said, out of my 30 years being at this institution, no one has ever, visit, our institution.
Wow.
And so I'm a full supporter of, we need to fully fund our HBCUs and our minority serving institutions, because they are the ones that produce our educators and diversify our legal system, and also diversify our healthcare workers as well. Also, I was up here, I'm in Northern Virginia right now on the bus tour, and I never forget a conversation with a teenager, and it was some Hispanic and black kids that came to me, and they said, we are frankly scared. It's either we getting shot through either gang violence or through weed or drug transactions, or we're getting shot by the police. We're scared just to even be outside. And to hear that, and they say, well, what's going to change? Because it's been like this for years. What's going to change? And what's needed to change is, again, people, what I've heard on this entire tour, they're looking for new leadership. They're looking for new ideas. They're looking for a fresh start, because what we're doing is essentially not working. So we have to be able to, I'm a supporter of our veterans, and I also have good friends who are officers, but we need to hold each other accountable, but also make sure we get rid of any bad cops, and also have systematic change to bring accountability to the system. So not only is it educational, as in bringing value and respect to not only to all of us on both sides of the aisle, but also we need to make sure that we support our communities and those in need to bring and uplift them. When we uplift them, that's when real change can happen, but it needs to happen through systematic change, and I will make that a priority.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One thing that I guess your tagline and that you're stating is that Xavier Warren is really a fresh start for the Commonwealth. Tell us about your Virginia's promise for a fresh start.
Yep. So, again, it goes back to, everything that we are experiencing right now, as in racial inequities,
yes,
as in climate, as in economic, lack of jobs and opportunity. I mean, you look at your bank account, how much have your family actually progressed financially? And even with COVID, I mean, a lot in healthcare, access to quality healthcare, fair healthcare, even when women giving birth. These issues we've been facing in discrimination for the last 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, even 50 years back. We still having these same conversations. And people are tired of the political divide, the racial divide, the social divide, and they're looking for change. And that's why I said, hey, I got into this race to be lieutenant governor and want your vote to be lieutenant governor, because I've lived and worked in both rural and urban areas, graduated from public schools that were underfunded, and also an historically black college minority serving institution. I know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck, just to struggle for the basic needs of life. I know what it's like to even try to start to be an entrepreneur, to get that going. So my Virginia promise is for a fresh start, that we will, if you elect me and put your trust in me, that you will have a seat at the table, and we will make systematic change. We will have economic empowerment for yourself and financial growth and wealth for yourself and your families. And that's my promise, all the way down from the social worker all the way to the business owner and small business as well. That's going to be my focus, and that's my promise to a fresh start.
You listen to State of the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville, here on WNSB Blazing Hot 91 here on the campus of Norfolk State University. Here for the month of April, May, and June, we're talking with individuals who are representing us here in the General Assembly, and also candidates who are running for statewide office. It's an opportunity for you to engage, to hear what they have to say, and for you to ask questions here on this show. Ms. Warren, you talked about working and in retail while in college and waiting tables, and that seems to be the story. That was my story in college as well, and that seems to be a story of a lot of us, but just not college, but that seems to be the story of a lot of everyday citizens that are just out there trying to make ends meet. And they're working not one job, not two jobs, but they're working two jobs and a gig, right? You know, we talk about the new gig economy and the lack of benefits that individuals have because of this and so forth. And it's pushed off as being an entrepreneur, but really is getting over on people and using their skills and talents to the highest and making the biggest profits at the top. So we talk about a living wage as opposed to a minimum wage. What are your thoughts on between the two, and what would you support if you're elected to service in the Virginia Commonwealth?
Yep. My top priorities, I want to help every Virginian to have a job with a livable wage. We need to make the minimum wage $15 an hour. I mean, you look at it right now, statistically, a family of four, they need to at least be making $22 an hour. So what's the minimum wage right now? It's $7.25. There's simply 4 jobs. I mean, it's an unfair system right now. I mean, I came from a working class family. My mother was a bioanalyst. My dad was a maintenance mechanic who actually traveled 40 minutes into North Carolina just to provide for our family.
Wow.
And while I was at college, I worked on Coliseum Drive at a shoe and retail store just to even pay for books. And when I was at Georgetown, I worked as a restaurant server just to make ends meet. And I never forget the day that Congressman John Lewis walked in a restaurant, sat at my table, and I was able to connect with him. And even though I was living paycheck to paycheck and trying to figure out how to pay next month's rent, I refused his payment because of what he has done and the torch that I want to carry on to the future, but focusing on, again, jobs and economic empowerment. So, people, it's tough, especially when you're literally, when I graduated and it was time for me to start in the economy and wanted to try to get a job, I was someone as a black man coming from a rural area with lack of financial opportunity. Now I'm $100,000 in debt, let alone if I had tried to get a car, try to get housing, credit card debt as well.
That's right.
Again, I am so far behind, and it's an unfair system. It's an unfair system, and that's the reason why I led by example. I wanted to do something about it, as in helping get scholarships for first-generation students and minority individuals by helping implement career-guided pathways to cut out excess student loan debt, by doing workforce training programs to get people from low-income families into high-wage, livable wage jobs as well. And that's the type of leadership as outside thinking to bring to the state capitol, and I'm actually your candidate that can accomplish exactly that. What I'm sharing is lived experiences, not hopeful thinking, not someone that, say, we'll do our best or I would do. These are lived experiences that I've done and walked in the shoes, and I experienced and learned along the way from other people, because I've heard these voters, I've heard people that are concerned, and they've been for years, that they're tired of the old Virginia way, and they want to look for a fresh start, and someone new that we can, change up what's going on at the state capitol in Richmond, and I plan to do just that.
Mr. Warren, part of the, I would say, step onto achieving the American dream is not just the living wage, it's just not addressing equity, racial equity, and also inequalities that you mentioned, and also the economics. But to get there, I think we have to look at individuals who are taking that step toward education but don't want to really attend a four-year college. I think one of the mistakes that we've made here in America is that we have undervalued individuals who are talented with their hands and can do very important jobs. And here in Hampton Roads, we are inundated and blessed to have the military installations that we have here, and also the industry to support them. What is your take on supporting individuals that want to transition from high school into trade school, or while they're in high school, start trade school? And what about the affordability? But they really can't afford it. So what about the affordability of those individuals who are talented, don't want to go to a 4-year, but they want to contribute in an effective, positive, and very beneficial economic way to our economy and their families?
Yeah, well, that's my career guided pathways. So what career guided pathways is where we focus on strengthening the relationship between our K through 12 schools and our 23 community colleges and our HBCUs, historic black colleges, and our Hispanic service institution, where we then say, hey, these are the top high-paying jobs that are available right now. Say it's 4, and this is how much they are paying, right? This job only requires high school diploma. This one's only requires a certificate. And where it's very beneficial, one, for the student, because, one, it makes the student and the parent more knowledgeable of what they're getting into and the possibilities out there. Also, it's very beneficial for the job market and the businesses because it creates a steady pipeline of skilled workers. And also, it cuts out excess student loan debt. It removes this kitchen cafeteria mindset where people go to college and they take classes. And I just read a report that many people feel like that if they look back on it, that going into debt to get a college education wasn't worth it because a lot of people get jobs that they didn't even study. So it creates a career-guided pathway to streamline people into livable wage jobs and be able to help them out immediately. So one of the factors I want to focus on that is making certificate programs free for Pell-eligible students. And so that's where we really build the pipeline again from K through 12 with our community colleges, minority serving institutions, to be able to help those folks, not only those folks coming out of K through 12 schools, but also individuals that want to be retrained and get new careers as well. So adults and adult learners, we need to be able to support them in certificate programs to get them retrained and get in these high-wage skilled jobs. And that's what I want to focus on. And it's very key, especially in your area with military spouses. You know, a lot of military spouses are left behind or forgotten, but we need to not only focus on those spouses, but also our service members. You know, and this goes back to social justice. One of my focuses on social justice is that people of color, Hispanics, black and brown people, they go into the military, yes, to serve their country, but also for the economic benefits.
That's right.
We need to take care of these individuals when they return. And so that's why it's also part of my social justice to focus on that and their spouses. So, yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Warren, it looks like you're well on your way. I mean, in your to running a campaign, and we're going to see what the end result is going to be. But with the campaign, you need help. Where can we find our listeners, find out more information about you? If they want to volunteer, how can they volunteer and get more involved?
Yes, please visit Xavier, Xavier, 4FOR, Virginia, spelled out, .com. So it's Xavier, 4FOR, Virginia, spelled out, .com. Please sign up to register to volunteer. Also, please contribute. If you're encouraged by this interview, encouraged by what you read, please contribute. Early voting starts this week, April 23rd.
Yes.
June 8th is the primary. With your vote, we know what the people holds the power. The power is with us. With your vote, we can bring new leadership. We can bring new ideas. We can make Virginia have a fresh start and bring actual true change. And I look forward to you all support. Again, we're on a statewide tour across the entire Commonwealth. I also ask for your prayers as well. Thank you and God bless.
That's it. So that's Mr. Xavier Warren, candidate for lieutenant governor, who's running for a fresh start here in the Commonwealth, where his focus is on jobs and a fresh start here in the Commonwealth. Mr. Warren, thank you so much for joining us here on State of the Water, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Well, if you've heard that, then again, we are here every April, May, and June of this particular year, and we're talking with candidates who are running for office here in the Commonwealth of Virginia to give you an opportunity to engage them. Again, we want to talk about voting. Early voting starts April 23rd, this Friday. You can go down to your local registrar's office and vote starting early. And you can register. And this is for all candidates who are running for office. You can also register, and the deadline to register is May 17th. And don't forget that the primary is the first full week in June, that Tuesday. So we're going to talk more about that, but we'll be right back in just a moment.
Make sure you wake up early Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. with the Blazing Hot Morning Show.
I'm Cheryl Wilkerson. I'll have your whole moment, your good news, your headline news, and don't forget, entertainment news.
I'm DJ INC from the Top Ropes. I'll tell you why every day's a holiday. I'll give you the update on those sports and on-the-spot traffic and weather updates.
And check out the Blazing Hot Tea Report with your girl, K Noteworthy, where I'll be serving all the scoop about your favorite celebrities.
And can't forget about the Blazing Hot Morning Shower mix with the legendary DJ Heart Attack. So start your day with us Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on Blazing Hot 91. We'll get through this together.
Blazing Hot 91 is looking for your support. Financial support, that is. Get ready. Coming this May, we're going to see how much you love us.
Quiet, he's going to say something.
We'll be asking for your tax-deductible contribution. We're a public radio station. That means we're supported by you, the listener. You guys tell us you love us all the time.
The hottest radio station.
Now, you can show us how much. And that keeps us blazing the airways with your urban alternative mix of music.
Yo, you know the deal.
So start planning your contribution to Blazing Hot 91 now. Be ready to drop that cash. Save the date, May 17th, 18th, and 19th. It's all love, and it's all for you on Blazing Hot 91.
It's spring in the air, and you know one thing about that here in the Commonwealth of Virginia is that it is the time period in which we elect our statewide office holders for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and every single General Assembly seat here in the Commonwealth. For the months of April, May, and June, here on State of the Water, we're bringing every candidate that's representing the Hampton Roads area and also statewide office to you, to engage them, to ask them questions, for them to tell you why they want to run for election or re-election. And don't forget, when we talk about voting counts. Every single vote counts. Here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, you can vote early at your local registrar's office on April 23rd, starting this Friday. And you can also vote in the primary, which is going to be on the official day here in June 8th. You can vote and cast your vote. But right now, we have one of our delegates here in the Hampton Roads area that's joining us to have a conversation about his time in the state legislature and why he wants to run for re-election. Alex Askew, representing area here in Virginia Beach, thank you so much for joining us here on State of the Water.
Dr. Claville, it is a pleasure. Thank you for having me this afternoon.
Absolutely. You know, we've been trying to get our schedules to jive together, and finally, this was the perfect opportunity. So I'm extremely happy to have you. I remember the night that you were elected. As a matter of fact, I was doing some analysis here on one of our local television stations of the election, and then I ended up coming to one of the areas where you were actually holding your after party for your victory, and we had a chance to engage each other there.
Yes, that was a long but fun night. A lot of hard work went into that, and I'm glad we were able to catch up, with session just ending and my re-election campaign kicking off. It's been a busy time, but like I said, it's a pleasure being up here and to catch up with you.
Absolutely. So let's talk about this last session, and before that, it was a very exciting session, and there was a lot of major legislation that passed, but it was different because it was COVID. And but still, a lot of the great work of the Commonwealth was actually done. Tell us a little bit about that time period in the legislature, and more specifically, your focus being a part of Virginia Legislative Black Caucus in various bills.
Yes, absolutely. It was a difficult time with COVID, with us as not only a nation but the Commonwealth dealing with the pandemic, but we were able to accomplish a lot. The House, we did not meet in Richmond. We were virtual, much like a lot of the nation, a lot of Commonwealth, a lot of businesses. We were handling a lot of business virtual, which made for, sometimes inability to communicate as effectively maybe if we wanted to. But we really worked hard and worked through all those hiccups, to pass bills that made sure our teachers got pay raises, making sure folks could come out of this pandemic and continue to have jobs. People can continue to function and have healthy businesses, continue to make sure our schools and streets are safe.
Absolutely. Yeah, how was it not having the hustle and bustle of people coming into the Capitol and visiting your office? I know for me, I missed it. I think coming to the state or our nation's capital is one of the most invigorating and rewarding experiences because it's the people's houses, right? How did it feel to you not having the interaction personal with your constituents?
That's the thing I probably miss the most, right? It's camaraderie. It's the, like you said, the hustle and bustle. It's the ability to, walk and talk with folks when you're between meetings. It's the able to see your constituents come up and see you, in your office, have those conversations as opposed to being on the phone or in Zoom. And just missing being in the gallery. Miss being in as some people call Thomas Jefferson's Capitol building, right? The pomp and circumstance. That's probably the thing I miss the most about it. And hopefully we'll be back in next year and as things begin to get back to normal. But like I said, we were fortunate enough to pass a lot of great bills, legalize marijuana, abolish the death penalty, and a lot of other great things that my office passed.
Absolutely. There were some other bills that were passed that really affected the election and the power structure here in the area that you represent in Virginia Beach that dealt with voting and voting rights. Tell us a little bit about that particular bill that goes into effect next year, and what were the reasons behind actually supporting that particular bill?
Sure, absolutely. And before I mention that, I think since the last time we talked, a court case came down that really showed that the large citywide election system is illegal in Virginia Beach. We were working on that. Delegate Fowler, Delegate Marcia Price worked on the Voting Rights Act, as well as the one that made the broad-based citywide voting system, illegal, right? So now it's fortunate that it's proven by that court case, and moving forward, we hopefully will be able to go to the city and work with the city council and the city manager to find a system that works, that doesn't, disenfranchise, African American communities, Black and Brown communities, Asian communities. So, we worked hard on that legislation in order to make sure, every voice counts, right? And you get to, pick your representative in the city council and on the school board, as opposed to them selecting you or, having the people that don't represent them pick them, right? Because we want to have a system that, you truly represent your community. Go and tell, what and work on what your constituents want.
Absolutely. The case that you're referring to is Holloway versus the city of Virginia Beach, and it was a case filed in federal court. We actually had the lead plaintiff, Latasha Holloway, here on State of the Water several weeks ago, discussing the reasons why she filed that case. It was she's just a citizen in Virginia Beach that also said, hey, this is not fair. And she filed it in federal court, pro se, and ended up having a group, advocacy group that works with voting rights to eventually represent her and the other plaintiff. And it shows the power, the bills that you passed, and just it shows the power of a citizen and individuals who have the mindset to help and to make change, that you can do anything. You can do anything. Right. So it was actually phenomenal.
It absolutely was. And not only that bill, but the bills we passed, before that. I'm on privileges and elections. We made it in the first section of your show when I heard you discussing it, right? The ability to early vote. Making sure that the folks can vote at drop boxes. We made some changes for last year as we were voting in the pandemic, where folks didn't have to have a witness signature, for their mail-in ballots, right? So we're making sure, and I believe I saw in the story not recently ago that we are one of the easiest states to vote. As we look at Georgia and some other southern states where they're making it harder to vote. They're continuing to disenfranchise voters, and me personally, I don't believe that this is what this country was founded on. I believe it was founded on the ability for citizens to select their leadership. Otherwise it would be a monarchy, right? But we are, a democracy, right? We're a republic. So I'm going to continue to make voting as easy as possible. That's one of my goals.
We actually had a discussion about that on an earlier show when we talked about voting rights. A tale of two states, right? So you look at Virginia and Georgia. Two of the former strongholds of the old Confederacy. Of course, Virginia was the capital Confederacy. Georgia was a stronghold. And we see the changing tide, right? And not just in the people, because we talk a lot about what happened in Georgia with the election in Georgia and the work of Stacey Abrams and others who work for voter turnout over time. But we saw the legislature clamp down and turn the tide on a lot of that. But here in the Commonwealth, we saw where the extra steps were taken to increase access to the ballot box, to increase protections of individuals being able to vote, to increase the ability for individuals to vote easily. Because ultimately, like you said, in a democracy, democracy works when more people are able to access the ballot box. What, in your opinion, what went into the General Assembly and your colleagues in pushing for this tide going toward progression as opposed to Georgia going toward regression?
I think it's ultimately sometimes, and not, I wouldn't say with us, but a power grab. All right, we saw the election of Ossoff and Warnock. All right, and I think I saw some folks saying that they were losing their grasp on power. Right, and I don't think that that's what we as Democrats in Virginia are looking for. We're looking to make it, as you said, as easy to access to the ballot box as possible. Right, whether of course, we want to remain in power. Of course, we want to continue to make the laws. But I want it personally, and I think as Democrats, the folks that want to vote can vote. Right? That's why we made sure we had 45 days of no excuse absentee voting. We even made Election Day a state holiday, so folks don't have to take off work and can't use that as an excuse, or bosses, can't say, you can't get off work, intentionally not allowing their employees to vote. All right, so we just want to make it as easy as possible to vote and not have any regressive policies. We want to be a progressive state that wants to move forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're listening to Stay the Water here on WNSB, Blazing Hot 91 on the campus of Norfolk State University. For the months of April, May, and June, we're having a conversation with the candidates because here in 2021, we're able to re-elect and elect office holders for our all state offices here in the Commonwealth. Today we have here on the second half of our show, Delegate Alex Askew representing the district here in Virginia Beach. Delegate Askew, you talked about the power grab and the changing dynamics. The Virginia Legislative Black Caucus has really been a major push, a major representative of addressing these issues of racial inequality, inequity, voting access, and the like. What were some of the other issues that were championed by the caucus and that you played a major part in?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, Doc, we're making sure we fight for economic equality, educational equality, political equality. And social, and helping to improve social conditions for African Americans. We and Delegate Ayer, I believe she was the patron, but last summer we banned no-knock warrants, right? The Breonna Taylor law. We fought
Absolutely.
for some Delegate Bourne fought for qualified immunity. Unfortunately, that has not come up again, or we have not passed that as of yet in the General Assembly. We are continually fighting for just social justice issues and equality issues. We fought for civilian review boards and oversight bodies, and just a ton of other, victories. And I think we can include in that fighting for our teachers and teacher pay, right? Making sure they have an increase, because I think, and more funding for our schools, because I think the better our educational system, the better opportunities our students have, right, in some of our communities and Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, and across the Commonwealth.
When you said teacher pay raise, I know we got a lot of people who got smiles on their faces that are listening to our show, because we believe that teachers are really outside of our home. Teachers are really the biggest influence on our children. And many times we know that they do a phenomenal job, but they're not rewarded. So, and in the pandemic, we've seen, I've had children, others, my colleagues, we've seen them go through, and try to do the best they can on what we call Zoom K through 12 and Zoom University. So we applaud the work of the legislature in getting these pay raises and acknowledging the work that our wonderful teachers are doing. There's a lot of times people want to run for office because they want another step. They're ambitious. And there are those who also want to be public servants. What really caused you to take that step and say, you know what, I want to put my foot in this race to run for this seat and really serve Virginia?
Absolutely. And that's a great question. And, to me personally, it was me wanting to give back to the community that raised me. I currently represent the district where I was raised. I went to College Park Elementary School, went to Tulsa High School, graduated from Hampton University, and returned home to work in politics. I got my start with the Obama campaign in 2012, and just since then I've been involved and engaged in public policy and on campaigns and making sure folks know about elections and focus on voter education, right? And when it came to me, I want to be sort of the bridge between my community and the legislative process, the political process, right? I think it's bigger than me, right? I think it's folks knowing, because people sometimes don't know who their delegate is or their state senator is or their city council person. So I want to be that person that's kind of the bridge. We've had, specifically during the pandemic, right, hundreds of phone calls about unemployment, right, helping folks with that. We have had a ton of calls to small businesses, and oftentimes it's something we can't necessarily do when it comes to a federal policy, but we do our best to connect them with their congress member or their senator to make sure they can get help with their small businesses to keep them afloat and help them get through this pandemic that's just, sort of ruined some industries, including, restaurants and different things. So, just to be a bridge to my community is the reason that I'm running, and, I'm looking forward to this reelection and letting folks know all the work we've done for them, right, and for the community. Absolutely.
And you talk about, individuals not knowing who the representatives are. One thing about politics is that, I teach and we talk about all politics is local. And the great thing about representing the district that you're in is that people know you and you know the people. You know the schools, you know the teachers, you know the people in the community, the community HOAs, you travel up and down the road and you see the issues. You see what's going on and you see what is needed to be addressed and able to address it. As you run for and throw your hat into, to be reelected, what are some of the issues that are on your current platform?
Absolutely. And like I said, and I didn't mention a lot of things we've been doing, but, I had the opportunity to what we call a Karen alert, which makes it a felony to call the police on someone based on, their race or gender or sexual orientation and different things, as well as, making sure that our water is clean in our school system. Virginia Beach had a few issues, I think almost 2 years ago at this point, so we want to make sure and help with remediation and testing. We just this past session, we made sure we put carbon monoxide detectors in our K-12 schools as well as our child daycare programs to make sure that kids don't get sick. And it's things like that you don't see or you see they're not codified. So you want to make sure everybody is safe in some of these buildings and make sure they put that in code and make that a law. But moving forward, I'm really looking forward to continuing to fight. Make sure we fight the cost of prescription drugs and make sure they are not raised. And folks really don't need, and I don't want folks to make the decision between putting food on their table and paying for their prescriptions for some of these, life-saving drugs. We're looking to continue to lower the cost of health care. I passed a bill last year. It was more of a budget amendment that provided $5 million split between Norfolk State University and Old Dominion University to create the first of its kind joint school in public health. So I'm super proud of that. So we're going to make sure our communities have access to affordable health care. And, it's a lot of things that I'm looking forward to doing. It's a lot of unfinished business we have over the next 2 years, and I'm looking forward to getting back to once reelected.
Absolutely. We talk about we've talked about the pandemic, and you mentioned access to health care. And right now we see how the pandemic has not only affected everyone negatively in one way or the other, but we also saw the pandemic reveal to the greater community, which we've known as African Americans, but reveal to the greater community the inequities in our healthcare system as it relates to us. And even with that revealing, with the vaccine rollout, it's showing even more inequities.
Right.
What are some of the things that you're doing now, or you think we should be doing to address moving forward the vaccine rollout inequities, the educational, the lack of a lack of access and education to the African American community, and to bring more access to our people.
Right. And yes, you're absolutely right. We saw the disproportionality when it came to the pandemic and COVID-19, whether it's come from the depths of this awful virus or folks not able to get the vaccination. But over the past few months to a year, we've had community testing programs, right, in some of these neighborhoods that might not have access. I've worked with my church, New Jerusalem Ministries, to have some community vaccination clinics. We've had one at Kensal Rec Center. Some other churches in the faith community are working some, at Ebenezer, they're working to have some vaccination clinics as well. So we're working with community leaders, right, to make sure that folks have access to the vaccinations. When we first started rolling them out in Virginia Beach, in particular, it was down at the convention center. It's difficult to get from the western part, a lot of places where I represent, down there, down to the beach. So we were making sure we brought the vaccination clinics to our community. But moving forward, like I said, we have to work towards lowering the cost of healthcare. I know a lot of times people are reluctant to go to the doctor or really have a general care physician because they can't afford it, right? So we have to find a way to remediate that and ultimately provide access to healthcare for our community.
Absolutely. One of the other aspects of the pandemic that really hit everyone was, again, the economy. Now, fortunately, there were some of us who were able to transition seamlessly to working virtually, but a lot of other people were actually negatively affected, where their jobs were, even when things are opening up, their jobs are eliminated, and they're not going to be able to go back to those jobs. As it relates to training and getting certification for other jobs, what is your support behind that effort, and how can we get that message to the greater community, especially the district that you represent in Virginia Beach?
Absolutely. And this is something that we really worked towards even before the pandemic, right? We have to look to diversify our economy, right? You have to look at and have entrepreneurial incubators. But before that, I think we need to look at training, right? Make sure there's folks that if they're looking to be a plumber or they're looking to be a skilled craftsman, whether it be someone that works with, wood or someone that wants to go into and being a mechanic, right? I think we have to work with our local school systems, our community college systems, and expand some of those programs. I was fortunate enough to take a tour and see what they're doing at TTC Virginia Beach, right? And look to build on those type of programs. And I know a lot of these next generations or these next our future jobs are going to be more on computer, whether it's coding or programming. And fortunately enough for us, we have a big offshore wind project, right, going off the coast of Virginia with Dominion to make sure we can look into cleaner ways to generate energy. So I think that'll be a huge hub, not only in Virginia Beach, but the region, to have folks training in for those future jobs. So I think we're well on our way to being on the backside of the pandemic, and hopefully we could get folks connected to some of these future jobs, I like to call them.
Absolutely. You mentioned the offshore wind energy. I recently interviewed the president of Dominion here in Virginia, Ed Bain, about that particular project and how we can extend it and include more African Americans and persons in our community to get access on the front end of those jobs. Because usually we find when industries come in, the African American community is the last to know about the opportunities in order to get those opportunity to get those very good paying jobs that really can change the trajectory and a generational output in economics of our families. Moving forward, as we look toward, the campaign season, what are some of the activities that you're doing? I know we're still in COVID, and how can our listeners be more engaged with you and learn more about you?
Absolutely, and I appreciate that question. Yes, we have a competitive race, as most races are. So, if we're doing a lot of online things currently, I think as we move into the late summer, early fall, we might going to doing some things in person. But for now, we have some Zoom events, some volunteer opportunities. If anybody wants to find more information about my campaign, you can visit alexaskew.com. Find me on Facebook, Alex Q Askew. That's my campaign page, as well as follow me on Twitter at AlexAskew757. I had to represent
Absolutely.
my hometown, so AlexAskew757, and you can keep up with everything that we're doing. And I would really ask for all the help to continue fighting for the progressive causes that I'm passionate about, helping me continue the work for not only the 85th District, not only Virginia Beach, but for the Commonwealth.
Absolutely. That is Delegate Alex Askew representing the 85th District here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the seat of it being in Virginia Beach. He's been working for his district. You can find more about him again at alexaskew.com. And if you want to volunteer, is it able to volunteer or donate on your website as well?
Yes. There are both options for that, forms to fill out, and we'll be very responsive. I have a great team.
Absolutely. Delegate Askew, again, it was wonderful having this conversation with you. Like I said, we've been trying to get our schedules to gel, and I'm so glad that this Sunday opened up for you, and enjoyed the conversation, and good luck to you on the campaign trail.
I was as well, and I really appreciate it, and look forward to joining you again. And thank you for the work that you're doing for the community as well.
I really appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much.
Talk soon. Take care.
Well, again, for the month of April, May, and June, we're bringing the candidates that want to serve you in the Commonwealth of Virginia, your communities, here to Stay the Water, here on WNSB Blazing Hot 91 on the campus of Norfolk State University, to talk about these issues that are important to you. A lot of times we hear the campaign speeches. A lot of time we see the commercials that are produced, highly produced, and they look great. A lot of money goes into it. But here we ask the hard questions. Here we ask, what has been done? What do you want to do? Why you want to serve the people? Because being a public servant is truly, truly an honor. And it's an honor to serve every single person that lives in those districts and the individual that they're serving statewide. So you could tune in here every Sunday from now until June so we can talk about those issues. Also, I want to mention again that Virginia has extended access to the ballot box. When we talk about a tale of two states, Virginia is moving in the right direction, we believe, when extending voting right protections, access to the ballot box to get people more involved as opposed to other states. So we know that we're leading in that direction. So you can start in the primary voting early. Early voting starts this Friday, April 23rd. You can vote early down at your local registrar's office. And also, you can locate your local registrar's office in every single city here in the Commonwealth to find out more about how you can vote absentee as well. And again, this is your city. This is your community. This is your state. I want you to take advantage of that opportunity and make your voice heard, because your voice matters, your experience matters, and all in all, it matters to us here on Stay the Water. So again, thank you for your support. Keep listening, keep supporting WNSB, not just here on Sundays, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, where we'll bring you not just the latest hits, but also the hottest stories and conversations. This is Dr. Eric Claville. I'm your host on Stay the Water, and we'll see you next Sunday.